Here's a gem bit. What if I told you that one of the most expensive and rare gemstones in the entire world can be found right here in the United States? It's called bixbyite or red emerald. It's so rare that prices start at $50,000 per carat, which leaves only one question. What's in your wallet? Discover the value of your story. Increase. So this award lets me know that good morning. Bonjour. Comment ça va? Et toi? Ah, ça va très bien. Bienvenue. Wan Ying, benvenita, benvenuta, privet, namaste, and welcome. Welcome to another exciting episode of Gem Hunter Stories. My name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a gemological storyteller. And what I do here is I take the art, science, history, and magic of gemstones, precious metals, and fine jewelry, and I somehow put them all together into a story. Over the years, I discovered that many of the same characteristics, the same traits that we so highly value in gemstones, you can find those same things in people. So what I do is I take those stories and use them as an inception point, as a bridge, as a template to help people, to empower people to discover the value of their own stories. Of not only just their stories, but the stories of their friends and family and people around them. To get you to understand, because once you understand someone's story, then you'll begin to understand how they interact with the light. This has been a fantastic week for me, and I'm really happy to see all of you, a lot of new friends, things of this. So thank you, Barbara. I entitled this show, Diamonds. What does it mean to be authentic? And I want to give a prop to a couple of viewers who are saying, Barry, you go all these places and you never show us pictures. So here, I think I'll take you on a mini tour every show. This is a wonderful resort city in France called Biarritz. And just a couple of pictures. So this is what it looks like. And it's just, in fact, Napoleon III used to live here. His wife, Eugenia, was very famous. She actually almost drowned here, but they have a lot of international surfing here. And it's just a phenomenal location. You ever get a chance to go, southwest of France, Biarritz. So I digress. So what does it mean to be authentic? Think about that word. Real, genuine. What does it mean to be authentic? See, when you look at a diamond necklace like this, and I'm gonna let you just sit there and drool for a second. I mean, it's just spectacular. We're talking about 130. This is 135 carats, just the center stone, the main stone, the pendant. It's called the golden empress with like 37 emerald cut gemstones, just various sizes. And some of you are sitting here asking, what's the carat weight? How much does it cost? All these kinds of questions dealing with this. How does it feel when you wear it? Imagine someone actually owns this. So, wow. But that's not what I do. As a gemologist, as a gemological storyteller, what I do is I see that, but that's not what I see. I see this. I see this is what a diamond looks like before it's polished, before it's cut. This is what I see. I see that this comes from here, comes from a place that looked just like, so this rock, this stone is buried somewhere in hundreds and thousands of tons of rock to be able to create this. That's what that stone became. So when you see this necklace, what I see is this. I can't just look at something anymore because of this art form called gemology. It has changed me because I can no longer look at something and just based on the way it looks, say, oh yeah, this is this. I have to start from the beginning. So that necklace originally looked like this. It came literally from a place that looked just like this. This is the place that rock came from. And because I understand that story, I understand what it went through. I understand that for 2 billion years, this rock had sat in a place like this. You're talking about God-forsaken? There you go. And in order to create this. And because I understand the story of it, that I understand that this rock was so big that it was able to make this gemstone and have friends, have a whole family. So the Golden Empress has a whole family of diamonds. So what you see is far more deep than that. You can't just look at that and understand what it is. And the first question, you have to first understand what the story is. What is the story of that? Then you have to understand from that story, you have to extrapolate that out to the value of it. What is the value of that gemstone? But before you ask that question, the question that I have to ask every time that I look at any type of jewelry or gemstone or precious metal, I have to ask, is it authentic? Is it real? Is it genuine? How did that come to be? And just take a second to thinking about that, how you can use that in your own life. To ask that question, is it authentic? Not only just within the people that you work with or the people that you share a life with, but also in yourself. Are you authentic? See, diamonds come in all kinds of different configurations. Not saying that diamonds can be made. There's synthetic diamonds, there's imitation diamonds. There's about 7, 8, 9 different ways that diamonds can be simulated. So let's play a game. Especially, you've been with me for a while, so I'm going to make you, I'm going to make you gemologist right now. And you tell me, I'm going to show you 8 stones, and you tell me which one you think is a genuine, authentic diamond. We'll have number 1, number 2. Take a second. I'll give you 10 seconds each one. Number 3. Beautiful. Wow, that is nice. Wow. Look at the faceting. Look at the color. Number 4. Wow. Who wouldn't be proud to wear that? That's about 5 carats. I mean, of course, I enhanced it, but that's about 5 carats. Number 5. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Tell me which one you're looking at it. You know diamonds, especially people who know diamonds. You tell me which one is a diamond. Three more. Number six. Number six. Number seven. Okay. Picture's a little dark. You had some inclusions in there, some little gas bubbles in there. Number eight. So which one? Which one was a diamond? When you looked at that, if you had those gemstones, you're at a cocktail party, you have a woman with a ring, beautiful ring on her hand, and you say, "Oh my God, that's so beautiful." And she goes, "Thank you, girl. It's just this little thing." Is it authentic? Which one? Some people looking at this and saying, "Yeah, wow, yeah, number eight. Thank you." Number eight. Some people said number five. So, not to keep you in suspense, drum roll, please. The results. Number five. Number five is actually a diamond. Now, the rest identify as diamonds. Some of them were actually synthetic diamonds, which means, and just to let you know, the difference between real, synthetic, and imitation. Real comes from nature. The chemical elements that make up that gemstone come from nature. Synthetic means that gemstone that has the same chemical composition of that is real. It's just that it's done in a laboratory. So what took 2 billion years for the planet to create, it took 2 weeks in a lab. And you can't tell the difference. I did a show about this about a month ago. You can't tell the difference. Even someone at my level, you can't without a whole bunch of fancy machines. And then you have imitation. Imitations is where you take something else, you take some type of plastic or something, and obviously if it's this big, you know it's not real, but I still have students that say, "Professor Barry, is that real?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you think so." But they take something else and make it look like a diamond. So the question is it authentic? When I look at something, and in order to understand or know whether or not something is authentic, what do you have to know? You have to know the story. You have to understand the stories of what it is. Here is a book. This is the GIA Gemma. I just let you look at the thickness of it. This is the GIA lab manual for gem identification. There's about 5,000 different minerals on Earth. As a gemologist, we got to know about 250. But because of what I do, I have to know a lot more. But these books, I have tons of books here that show you different characteristics, different traits, different refractive indexes. All these things you have to look at in order to figure out whether or not that is real. And my mentor and absolutely incredible gemologist made me, Robert James, made me understand that when you look at a gemstone, when you do a gem identification, it's not about what it is, it's what it's not. What is it not? And that's a really important point for you to think about whether or not something is authentic. It may represent in a particular way. It may sound in a different way. It may look a certain way, but is it authentic? Rachel, last week we did that wonderful show. And again, I thank Rachel so much for having the courage and transparency to share her journey with us. But what Rachel, when she said it, and it still stuck with me, was when she said that, Barry, when you're trans, she's a transgender woman. When you're trans, the first thing that people say, the biggest misconception is that you made a switch. You changed teams. You went from the New York Yankees to the New York Mets. And she said, no, that's not what it is at all. She said, I always felt like a woman. Everyone else identified her as Rich. Her brother, who we'll have on in a little bit. Charlie, they grew up together. Rich was his brother, but Rich wasn't rich. Everybody, as she said, as Rachel said, everyone else identifies. She let everyone else put that identification, that label on her, but inside of her, she wasn't rich. She was Rachel. And think about that. Think about what is your story of your life. I'm talking to you right now. What is your story? And then think about how does that story manifest into who you are, and more importantly, who you say you are. Who you say you are. Some of you know that I'm a Toastmaster, and I did a contest this weekend, Friday, and the contest it's called the evaluation contest, where you have to take someone else's story, listen to it, and then do something with it. And I lost. I didn't even place. Okay. And it's not that I didn't win before and I've won a few championships, but the man's story, his name was William, 82-year-old man. And he told this beautiful story about his life. It was called Messages from an Old Man, which of course spoke to me directly, if you haven't noticed. And he told this story about enjoying springtime, enjoying grass growing and seeing the kids that he thought was going to kill him when they were little kids. Now those kids bring joy to his life. He talked about how good it feels to be able to walk up and down 4 flights of stairs every day, and how it felt so incredible to be 82 years old or 81 years old, hoping to be 82. And he was standing there giving a speech, 7-minute and 22-second speech in front of a whole audience of Toastmasters from all different types of walks, lives, male, female, black, white, everything. And he was so proud to be there. But he also told the story of the things that he has to the obstacles, the antagonists that he has to confront. He knows at 81 years old with a pacemaker in his chest that he still has to deal with things like cancer, diabetes, respiratory diseases, infections. He talked about all those things that he knows that is the antagonist for him life, that he said, as he said, something's going to get him. He just doesn't know what. So according to Toastmaster rules, what I was supposed to do was listen to that beautiful speech. It really is a story. Take that story, sit down for 5 minutes, think about not only what was good, what was bad, or maybe what I could have improved, and then tell him how I could have improved it. And to be honest with you, I couldn't do it. I couldn't find something wrong with his story, because as a 62-year-old man, I was looking at hopefully my future. I was listening to his story in not his warning, but making me realize just the beauty of my own life through the lens of his life. So I couldn't find something to say that said, well, what you should do is other people could, and that's fine. But as a storyteller, as a gemological storyteller, my mission in life is to uplift and find value in people's stories. When I first saw him, he was just a little old guy, a little old white man. Okay, I'm like, okay, what's he going to say? And when he spoke, I was like, oh my God, that was that rock. That was that diamond uncut that I thought was uncut. He was just an old guy. Yeah, okay. And then when he told that story, I was like, wow. And he came to me afterwards, and William, his name was William, and he said, Barry, thank you so much for hearing my story. And I was moved. I was honored. Because what he was doing was being authentic. And when you are authentic, with not only just with other people, but with yourself, the whole world sees you in a different way. You are no longer that rock. Now you are that diamond. You are whatever gemstone makes it work for you. That's what you become when you're authentic. And when I'm going to bring on in a few minutes is Charlie Jones. Charlie Jones is the brother of Rachel. And what we're going to talk about, and we did an interview, but I want you to hear it live. I want you to hear what authenticity means to him, not only just from his own life, but also authenticity, what he experienced seeing Rachel become authentic in her own life. So take a second, think about authenticity, and I will see you on the other side. And maybe not. So, but just, you have to understand what it means to understand someone's story, to get to the point in your life where you begin to understand what that person has to go through in order to become that person. And the difference between us and a diamond is diamonds have millions and billions of years for that to happen. That a diamond that you own, the diamonds in my ear, the diamonds in my any piece of jewelry that has diamond in it, that diamond will be here now. It was here before you, but here during your whole lifetime, and it's going to be here for millions of years after you. We don't have that kind of time. We don't have that kind of time to figure it all out. We have a very short window in our lives. It could be today, it could be tomorrow. We know we live in that world where today we wake up and today is our last day. So the question is to you, are you being authentic? If someone was to look through a book and you were on page 135 and it said your name, what characteristics would they find out about you? Are you a singer? Are you good with children? Do you know how to work with numbers and it's fun for you? Are you authentic? What is your story? How did you get to be who you are today? What process did you have to go through in order to become? What separates you? Like I said, there's no shortage of diamonds. Most diamonds, 80% of diamonds are industrial diamonds, so you will never see them. There's nothing to those diamonds. Those diamonds are used for, and not to cheapen those diamonds, because those diamonds are used for so many different aspects of our lives. Cutting streets and tools and all types of things. Fighter jets, now they're going to talk about diamonds used in our computers. They will take us to a whole nother cloud experience. But the diamonds that we look at, the diamonds, that beautiful golden empress, is special. Isn't that the same thing for you? Isn't that the same thing for you in your life? Whatever you do, you're a teacher. You work with you're a social worker. You're a nurse, and you work with people in their worst states, whether their state of mind, their physical. You work with those people. That is what makes you special. And the people, and you always know when somebody being authentic, because that person they do the job, and that job, that job is hard, that job is difficult, that job is challenging. You look at that person one day and go, girl, I could never do that. Never. To walk into a room with someone who has Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, and they're because of their mental state, they don't even know who you are. Or people who have diseases where they don't have control over their bowel movements, and you have to clean that up. Or the teacher that has to walk into a room of 30 kids and various levels of behavioral knowledge, and yet you have to teach them something. And you know the people who are authentic because they leave their jobs and they have a smile on their face. They go back the next day and they know they have to do it. When Charlie comes on, Charlie is a United States Marine just like myself, but Charlie fought in Fallujah. And for those of you who don't know, Fallujah was like one of those battles that you'll be reading about for a long time, and it affected him. And yet he found so much beauty in his sister becoming authentic. And I can tell you just from my own personal experience, there is absolutely nothing in the world. The greatest thing that I've learned in studying this art form called gemology is what it means to be authentic, what it means to be who you are, to wake up every morning and to realize that this is your mission in your life. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you change tires for a living. Everybody, not everybody, but there's a whole lot of people that drive cars. Every car out there on the road has tires. And if you have if you have a business and it's called Barry's Tire Shack, and someone comes in, they're late for work, they got to pick up the kids, and they need their tires changed, and they come to you, you are the world to them. And if you enjoy doing that, I don't know, you enjoy the way the air goes in the tires or something. If you enjoy doing that, now guess what? You are being authentic. And maybe nobody will know. Maybe nobody will look at those, just like those diamonds, all of those of you who pick number 8, number 8 is just trying to remember off the top of my head, a synthetic rutile. It's a synthetic rutile. That's what you were looking at with number 8. Totally different chemical, molecular structure. It just looked like a diamond. So number 5, which is actually a diamond, yeah, there's people wearing number 5, and there's people who are wearing number 8. And you have to know, if you're wearing it, you have to know what you're wearing. You have to understand the story of it. Not just the story of how it was made, but also the story of how it was given to you. So when you're being authentic, that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. Being authentic is awareness. Being authentic is getting to the point where, as I say to you all the time, awareness is that moment when you realize that this is not something that I can do. This is something that I have to do. And I have the honor and pleasure right after the break to introduce you to my friend, my brother, and someone who understands authenticity and awareness on a whole nother level. So now I'll see you when you get back from the other side. There's a thing in gemology called refractive index. That's the study of how much a gemstone will bend white light into the different colors. And garnet has the highest refractive index of any colored gemstone except for a diamond. A diamond's refractive index is about 2.4, whereas a garnet, especially a demontoid garnet, has a refractive index of 1.88. which gives garnet a wonderful brilliance. To me, a garnet is better. A savorite garnet is even better than an emerald. Discover the value of your stone. Hey, Charlie. Semper Fi, man.
What's up, man? It's Semper Fi.
Oh, man. So let's get right into it. First of all, thank you for being here. Friends, family, world, this is my brother from another mother, okay? Charlie Jones. And those of you who come on the show know that Charlie, I love his comments. Charlie has helped me so much, made me think about different things. So it's, again, a pleasure to have you on the show. So last week was quite emotional for me. It was quite an eye-opening experience for me. And we did a whole interview, but I wanted to hear it live. I wanted everyone to really hear it live because what you were saying was so powerful. So let's just get right to it. How did you feel? Well, okay, let's back up. What was your experience with Rich? Growing up with Rich, what was your experience with your brother?
I mean, we were pretty close. We spent a lot of time together. We did a bit of martial arts, we got Aikido together, so we went to class doing that stuff, and we spent a lot of time, just hanging out. I spent a lot of time watching him play video games because he didn't want to let me play. But it was, I don't know, you go through your life and when you're younger and you're like, this is just how life is, so I would say we had a very pleasant childhood, and it was we never really got into any big arguments or grief with each other. But he was so reserved all the time. Like it was very difficult to feel like you knew him more than on a surface level. And it wasn't something that I noticed early on. It was something that I can look back on and see and say, yeah, there wasn't a lot of depth there because there wasn't really a need for it. But I mean, we were always there for each other. He was always there for me. I was always there for him. So growing up, we were just like two kids, any other family.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so you had that experience. You knew him as Rich, your older brother. So what was it? Tell me, what was it like when Rachel told you the news? When Rachel let you know how she lived into her authenticity. Tell me what that felt like.
Well, I felt really bad. We had talked the night before it was going to come and we were going to discuss something, and we were very vague about what it was supposed to be. And I had not really slept that night. So right there.
Yeah. I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm here.
Very good. So I didn't really sleep that well. So I had asked if we could postpone it till a little bit later in the afternoon. And I didn't realize what was going on at the time. It didn't tell me anything. It was very vague. So finally, when got to my house, sat down with me, when people start a conversation with you, there's really something I need to talk to you about. I have something very important I need to talk to you about. It's never a good thing. It's not like you're like, oh, I won the lottery, Charlie. I just want to let you know, but I wanted to come over to your house and tell you right to your face because I want to make sure you understand that I'm being serious right now. It's like, no. It's like, oh my God, what is happening and why does he need me to be there? They want to make sure they're not going to freak out and spin off the world. And so when I was waiting for him to come over, I was like, oh my God, what is going on? And my mind just rushes to the worst possible case scenario because that's just kind of how my mind works. So I'm thinking, oh my God, I hope he doesn't have a cancer or he's not sick or something. Or he's not, terminally ill or something like that. And so came over, sat down in my basement. And I mean, just really bluntly, it's like, Charlie, I'm transgender. And I'm like, okay. That's it. What the hell you put me through, man? And, there was a switch in my head. It didn't click right away, but I'm like, oh, so many things from earlier on that didn't make a lot of sense to me started making a lot more sense when I started thinking about it. And, it just, the relief you could see on his expression right after that came out of his mouth, it was unbelievable. It was just like you had been carrying a sack of bricks your whole life and you just realized you didn't have to carry it and you could just put it down, and that's exactly what happened. Put it down and it was just a weight lifted off of, almost physically felt like he was lighter. So then she started telling me about, her life as rich, and how difficult it was, and how the journey that she'd been going through her life, was so hard, especially because the fact that it was a big secret. It had to be this private thing that no one could ever know about, because God, what would anyone think, and what would they think of me? And I mean, I've been through a very similar type of, that's like the shame of it, like you put this shame on yourself. And like I've done that to myself, not in the same way as Rachel, but in my own life, hiding, like my problems with alcoholism for so long, and trying to keep myself in a positive light in other people's eyes. So I'm constantly lying and baiting and switching people and stuff. And it's so much to manage. So, like just knowing what that struggle is like, in the experience of having to go through that myself, and getting to a point where I was in a really dark place for a while, I instantaneously understood like that position. And I mean, it was very intense. We had a conversation about it, and it was very open and understanding. But it was an subtly intense conversation. We were talking about a lot of really serious things. But it was really great, because at last I finally understood why Rich was the way he was. It's because it wasn't Rich there at all. It was Rachel hiding out as Rich. And, it's no wonder why. There was absolutely understood, but I felt so bad, because all the times I would call Rich at 2:00 in the morning, stinking drunk, crying about my life and what I'd done to myself and all the other things, and like never knowing how bad things were for Rachel all the time. And that was like the first thing I'd ask. I was like, why didn't you just tell me this? Because I know what it's like to be. It's like, how could I? And it's a scary thing to do. It's a scary thing to come and say something like that to somebody, especially, before it started becoming a little bit more mainstream in society. Now it's a bit more understood. It wasn't back then, and I understand that. There wouldn't have been any difference of acceptance for me, but I can certainly understand how terrifying that would be.
Thank you for sharing that. And that's the reason why again, I'm honored to have you and Rachel on the show, because people don't understand, all just like the gemstones, all the different manifestations they can take. Charlie and I had this conversation yesterday. Charlie's talking about his alcoholism. I am not an alcoholic, but I am a child of an alcoholic parent. So there's things I understand that on a deeper level. My ex-wife was an alcoholic and a drug addict. So it's like, when I first heard, and this whole thing started, Charlie, as far as a Toastmaster friend of mine, coming out and identifying himself as trans. He's a trans man. And my emotions went from being angry at him at first, like, you lied to me. You told me that you were the guy. And then it's not like we had it. It was just that I thought he was the guy. And then I had to stop and think about just my own journey. The things that we all, in all different ways, hide out, and we're not being authentic to who we really are. And it's a profound feeling, and it's a reflection. It makes you reflect. So to you, I'm asking, how did Rachel's authenticity, and in the story, this is called awareness. This is when, like I said, it's realized this is not something that you are just trying to be. This is who you are. So how did Rachel's authenticity affect you in becoming more authentic with yourself?
That's a good question. I think that I particularly am terrified that I look bad in other people's eyes. Like, I want to try to put my best face on every minute of the day. I try to be at my best at all times so that I don't appear to be slipping in any way, or I want to make sure that I present myself as well as I can all the time. And you know, when you're having a hard day, sometimes you just need to have a hard day and not button everything up, because it makes everything about your life so much harder, to manage yourself at that level, like, and to put so much emphasis on image is, it's superficial for one, but it's not authentic. It's not honest. Like, I have my good days and my bad days, and I am much better these days at accepting where I am in my place, than I used to be. I still, of course, struggle with that. I'm sure as most people do, but God, I mean, seeing somebody take a leap of faith like that, especially into an unknown, is it makes it a lot harder to complain about this stuff going on in your life. It was an incredible thing to see, and the greatest part is that, I mean, Rich was a wonderful person. Okay, I love my brother very much. We spent a lot of time together, and we were very close, as far as brothers go. But I know Rachel so much better than I ever knew Rich, and I've only known Rachel for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. Like 36 years of having a brother, and I did not know him as well as I know Rachel for 2 years. And that's like part of this transformation, is like, never really had a lot of close friends. Never really, and one of the things that didn't make sense to me at the time, like younger, when he was in high school, he didn't really have any girlfriends or anything like that. That all makes sense now. I understand all of that. Like, and it's like, oh, okay, but my God, how terrifying must have that been? Like every day when you go to school, and like especially like in high school, where everything is about social like prowess. You know what I mean? So I don't know. For me, it makes everything a little bit easier for me to come to terms with, accept in my life, because it's like, God, how hard is it really? Like the fight, the struggle with that is an inner struggle. It's not outside. It's one of those things where you have to just look at yourself in the mirror and accept what you see as being exactly what it needs to be, and not exactly what you want maybe at that moment. But to know that you're there is the only way you're ever going to have a starting point to where you want to go. You have to be honest with where you are.
Yeah, that's. I just wanted to stop you, because that's what I say. You watch my show all the time, as far as the discovering the value of your own story. And that's what you're saying, what Rachel was saying, just resonated with me, and it resonated with a lot of people. I've gotten a lot of phone calls and comments about just the bravery, because I don't know if I said it clearly, but Rachel is not only just a trans woman, but Rachel is also an Army officer, a major in the Army. And those of you, whether you've been in the Army or not, how dun, da, 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 the whole John Wayne effort. I mean, and the whole thing, and to have the courage to married, everything, have the courage to do that. I couldn't see Rachel as anything else but a courageous woman. It's like, for a second you're thinking, and I've just been honest, I was just like, oh my God, what do I say? How do I? And I was just like, boy, this is Rachel. It's Rachel. How would you talk to any woman named Rachel? Hi, Rachel. I'm Barry. What's your name? It's like, how are you? And I think there's such a power in that. Just like when you're identifying a gemstone and you're going through the different tests and you're looking at it, and you realize that just because it's green doesn't mean that it's an emerald. It has a different value. Once you understand the story is a different value, you see it in a different way, because now you are fully engaged in what it is, where it comes from, just the beauty of it. And the beauty of it comes from the story. So just, time is always not our friend. So I'm going to ask you, So you said it's nice because you actually have a wonderful short timeline. So how has your relationship with Rachel uh, changed? How's your relationship with Rachel changed, and how have your relationship with yourself changed as a result of this revelation?
Um, I mean, our relationship is great. You know, we talk a lot more and more often than we used to. And it's not really, I don't think necessarily I had to do a lot with that. I mean, for a while it was, I wanted to make sure everything was all right, but, you know, it's a bit easier to talk about more difficult things, things I'm not real happy about or things that I'm dissatisfied with in my own life or whatever, and knowing that the other person has had struggles is always comforting to you when you want to go to somebody that to for an ear, even just to talk. Like, you want to make sure the other person can understand how hard life can be at times, or what your life might look like, and why that might be difficult. um Rich and Rachel were always very good at talking me off a ledge. There's no idea how many times we quite literally did that when I was at very low points, and it's just, it's incredible because here's a person that I've known for so long. I'll tell you the truth. I never understood why Rich had a Facebook. I never understood it. It was never on it. Maybe a picture or two a year, and like a status update once every 6 months. I just did not get it. Rachel's Facebook is packed with stuff now. Like, there are so many updates and discussions, and that's really the thing that I get the most enjoyment out of, because I knew that there was a lot in there. I've always known
Mhm,
that. I
mhm,
Rich was an incredible person. Rachel is an incredible person. And a very intelligent person. One of the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life. And just to see it clamped up and kept inside for so long,
mhm.
it's tough to watch that. It's because it's like there's so much in there. Why don't you just get it out? You know what I mean? So to see that, I mean, and that difference, Barry, was like that. It was
Yeah.
not gradual. It was as soon as that was done and over with, like the secrecy of it, and she was out. Then it
Mhm.
was it was totally different. Like a total acceptance of themselves, and they're giving themselves permission to be themselves in a public way was probably the most radical transformation and quickest that I've ever seen in my life, and the most satisfying, because now she won't shut up. So, and that's
All right.
great. I love that. I love that,
All right.
and
No, that's fantastic. So just one last question. As a loved one of, and I don't even want to say a loved one of a trans woman, a loved one of someone who is different, who is someone who is discovering themselves. And there's so many of us watching right now. There's so many people of this audience all over the world who's watching, who is hiding something, not necessarily being trans or being an alcoholic, but just hiding something. That maybe you don't cook as well as you thought and or maybe you're not a good business person. So, as a loved one, what would you, in 1 minute or less, what kind of advice would you give to someone who loves someone who is bringing something different to them about themselves? What advice would you give that loved one who is receiving information from someone that's in their family or that they work with or that's in their lives? What advice would you give them?
I guess what I would say is, remember, you're not perfect too. Like, nobody is, and just the acceptance of listening and with an open mind is so potentially life altering, because there doesn't have to be a fear of openness when someone's talking. And that's really the thing I think is most important is, you know, if somebody has something they're going through and they need to discuss it with somebody else, that person has to be willing to listen to what they're going to say, and reserve your judgment after the fact that you realize that there is no one that's perfect in this world. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. There are things that we all probably are not proud of that we've done in our lives. And that's important to remember because, the moment you start putting somebody else on a lower tier as you is the moment you start shutting yourself off from the world. And that's sad. It's an ignorant thing to do. And if you care about somebody and they have something like that that's troubling them, you can't understand how hard that is to live with unless you've done it. I don't say that I know what it was like to be rich or know what it's like to be Rachel now, because I don't. But I do know what shame can do to a person because I've lived through that. And that is awful. There's nothing worse than shame. And your reactions are what's going to trigger that shame in the other person. If you react in a way, they're going to either close up or they're going to relieve themselves and be happy that they actually got it off. And that's really, I think, a lot of that, the nervous energy comes from that, that desire to try to keep things in control. And once you let something out, you don't have control over it anymore. So, be open, willing to listen, understanding, and remember that nobody's perfect, including you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Charlie, as always. Ladies and gentlemen, let's just give it up for Charlie. Yes. So loved ones all over the world. This is Taking Advice, Listen. And thank you so much, Charlie. And just want to say something special to the audience out there. I hope you got something out of today. It's literally, this is the essence of what it means to be a gemologist. Every time I look at a gemstone, I cannot decide what it is. I cannot. People say all of me, hey, look at this. Hey, look at this. Look at this. And I look at it and go, that's beautiful. That's nice. But when they ask me, what is it? I normally don't say anything because I understand as a gemologist, what I'm looking at may not be what it is. And that's the same thing I want you guys to do, ladies and gentlemen. Take, as Charlie said, have an open mind. Listen to someone. Figure out why they're doing. Figure out their story. And once you figure out their story, perhaps you might have a whole different sense of what their value is. And you may not agree with it, but maybe you just understand it just a little bit better. So, with that, I will say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your subscriptions. Welcome to everyone that's new. My name is Barry B. Mixon. I am a gemological storyteller. And each and every day of each and every week, I'm going to hope that you take the time to discover not only your value, but someone else's value. And I think your life will just be a whole lot brighter. So until next week, au revoir. At the teller, voila.